What is going on, everybody? It is I, the franchise, here with another installment of Wrestle Talk with the franchise. Where should we start? This might be a first. This might be a first in history of this inception of what is Royal Club. I have an issue with the Paul Levesque booking. I know it's a surprise, but hear me out. So if you guys follow the Instagram page, RCW_podcast, you did witness that on Friday I said that the Bloodline story has been ruined. I will say a chapter, this particular chapter kind of is ruined. Now, I say that because, as you guys know, we weren't sure if it was going to stick with 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 for War Games. Now, as I said last week, Solo did say 5. Then there was talks about they were just going to stick to 4. But if they did go 5, who would be the 5th? You know how I stood. I've always stood on the business of let it be Cody. And then we don't know who Solo's 5th is. And then it is the final boss himself. It is The Rock. Because now you can build Rock, Cody for a Royal Rumble, for a Saudi show or Elimination Chamber or something. You could build for Cody, Rock, and then Roman, Rock, and obviously Cody and Randy. But we're not getting that. We're not getting that. And that's not the only booking decision I question, because as you've seen in the title of this show, it is plain and simple. Did they ruin War Games? Last week, I was trying to think of a woman's War Games because there's not really much that's going on. However, this Monday was pre-taped, and it is rumored, even though you know I'm not a big fan of spoilers, but by the time most people, well, I won't say by the time most people, because this comes out at 10 a.m. So I will come back next week with my thoughts. I'm gonna talk about it a little bit, but you will get my full reaction to this because it just feels forced. This feels forced. This women's War Games feels very forced. And I don't understand why we're getting this War Games. And if it is true that Mommy herself has returned and is in this War Games, What are we doing? Because Io is next up to challenge for Liv's title. How are you? Then why do that? Why have Io compete for this title if you know for a fact that Rhea is going to come back? And she's back. But I will get into the Women's War Games next week, so be on the lookout for that. Before I dive into the Bloodline War Games, there is some stuff that needs to be discussed. As you guys are aware, last week, now to be the SmackDown that was in Buffalo, they announced and they revealed the Women's United States title. Now, we do know that obviously the Raw that was post Crown Jewel was pre-taped. So I was thinking, and a lot of us was probably thinking the same thing, that the Raw would get a secondary title, which would be the Women's Intercontinental title, but they haven't revealed that yet. However, they did announce the tournament. It is 4 triple threat matches. One took place this past Friday on SmackDown with Bayley advancing. And the winner and who becomes the inaugural Women's United States champion will be crowned at Saturday night's main event. So you see the bracket right here. All 4 matches are triple threats. Bayley did advance. She beat Candice LeRae and B-Fab. We have Bianca Belair versus Chelsea Green versus Blair Davenport. Jade Cargill versus Meacham versus Piper Niven. Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton versus Elektra Lopez. Now, this is a rather interesting lineup because we may get Bayley versus Chelsea Green, because I would love for Chelsea Green to win this title now that the brackets are out. I would love for Chelsea Green to win this. I also said my dark horse would have been Meacham. Tiffany Stratton, maybe, but she has the briefcase. So I don't think that she's going to do this. I don't think she's going to win. I'm going, like I said, I'm going with Chelsea Green. Either Chelsea or Meacham. That's my dark horse. Betting odds is probably going to be Bayley. I don't see where Jade or Bianca will win. I could see a scenario, though, where Jade and Naomi face off, because that bracket, that's who will be facing off next. The winner of the Jade Meacham Piper Niven face the winner of the Naomi Tiffany Stratton Elektra Lopez triple threat. That will be interesting if we get Naomi versus Jade Cargill. And could we start seeing the seeds being planted for Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair to split? So I'm looking forward to this tournament. I really, really wish they do announce the Intercontinental title in that tournament, because Raw is going to need that secondary title. They're going to need it. And now with the return of Dakota Kai, which I'm very excited for. I know last week, I believe I said Zelina but I forgot Zelina's on Raw. So if you have it on Raw, Zelina should, Dakota, Kyrie. I'm not going to say Io because Io's competing for the women's world title. And you could throw Rhea in there. Raquel. If you did bring this women's Intercontinental title into the fold, you can have Raw can do some things with it. So let's go further. Obviously, at Survivor Series, it was announced that Damian Priest will be challenging Gunther for the World Heavyweight title. It was announced officially on Friday. Not Friday, on Monday. This is interesting. And I say it's interesting because when I was watching Raw and I'm looking at how Gunther kind of was belittling Luget Kaiser, like it felt though as if like he respects Priest and doesn't want any interference. Gunther's always been that way though. If you ever really, even when Gunther was in NXT UK, he's the heel that doesn't require outside interference. You very, very, very rarely do you see Luget Kaiser or when Giovanni Vinci was there interfering in Gunther's matches. It was always Gunther which is win and kind of went clean to be a heel. This is very interesting because now we're seeing a different side of Gunther where Gunther's kind of like, nah, we're not doing it this way. I kind of like respect Priest. And I still don't think that Priest is going to win. I don't. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with Priest when this match is over. Where is he going to go? And what's going to happen with Gunther after this happens? The Wyatts, I'm pretty sure at Survivor Series, we're going to get a traditional Survivor Series match. This may be the only traditional Survivor Series match, and then we'll have War Games. But this might be the only traditional 5-on-5 match with the Wyatt Six and Final Testament, because it was revealed on Monday. Miz did a little okie doke with the Wyatts, and now it's a possibility that we can get what I initially thought it was going to be, where you have AOP, Karrion Kross, Miz, and Scarlett versus the Wyatt Sick. So we could possibly see this happening at Survivor Series. There's still more attention with the New Day. We still continue to see it. I'm very interested to see how they're going to do this with the celebration coming up for their 10-year anniversary. If you guys have not checked it out, I do have a short segment of it that was from last week's episode. It's a solo clip. It's on the channel. So go check that out. And also check out the Montez Ford one that I did, because we didn't get a clean winner. It was very interesting to see that DIY interfere. We're starting to see Ciampa starting to show the old Tommaso Ciampa, the black heart Tommaso Ciampa. I'm still kind of curious on what they're going to do with the Street Profits. Like, Michael Cole says something that he recently talked to Dawkins, and Dawkins had hinted maybe it is time for us to see how we go on a solo run. So maybe, just maybe, we still get this break we still get them to go their separate ways. Definitely keep an eye out on that. I'm going to safely assume it appears though as if Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens are going to rehash their rival and fight either at Survivor Series or Saturday night's main event. Now, Kevin Owens took to social media, as he's been doing, which I absolutely love, doing a video. I'm not going to show the video this week, but if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. He basically said that he will be at SmackDown this Friday in Utah, because Cody Rhodes wants him. Now, as I said before, I said this last week, and Cody kind of echoed it. When Randy Orton comes back, Randy Orton can clearly look at Cody Rhodes and say, you are the sole reason why my career almost ended. You are the sole reason why my career almost ended, because I tried to mediate and tried to help you out with this whole thing with you and Kevin Owens, because you decided that you wanted to go and align yourself with Roman Reigns, who has run terror for 4 years in the WWE, almost took 18 months out of my career, as Kevin Owens has on his shirt, Kevin is right. I really think they can really execute that beautifully if they do it that way. If you have it where Randy Orton does agree with Kevin Owens, not that they are going to reform a team, but can just say, I agree with what he said, and now I'm going after the one thing, which is the title. Now, let's talk about, before I even go, Nakamura's back. Shinsuke Nakamura has returned. God knows how long it's been since we've seen the King of Strong Style. He's returned, and he has his eyes set on one L.A. Knight. Yeah. I'm very interested in this, because I was always wondering, like, and this is what we said after he retained his title at Crown Jewel. What is next for L.A. Knight? Who is next to face off with him? Now, I thought it was going to be Santos Escobar, but it doesn't look like that. It looks like it will be Nakamura, which it'll be kind of cool to see. You know, it's definitely been a while since we've seen Nakamura. We know last time the way he was doing his thing and feuding with Cody, and the vignettes that they were doing with him, I can only imagine how it's going to be with LA Knight. And I think this will be a good challenge for LA Knight, because Nakamura can bring out the best in people. Like, he really can. And him as a heel, come on now. You can't get any better for him as a heel. Like, a good guy. As a babyface, cool, but I think he's better, not just because I love heels, but better off as a heel. Now, let's talk about this Bloodline story, because I feel like it's been this particular chapter of the Bloodline story has been ruined. Traditionally, War Games is 5-on-5. And I'm sorry if I'm sounding congested. I'm getting over cold. So I do apologize if I do sound very stuffy, but this is like the last stage of my being sick is the congestion. Traditionally, it is a 5-on-5 for War Games, and we started to probably think that it was going to be a 4-on-4. As you guys know, as I said earlier, ideally I would have wanted it to be The Rock showing up and then Cody Rhodes being inserted, and we get that. That's not the case this year. Now, on Monday, they went to Seth Rollins. Sami Zayn went to Seth Rollins to ask about him being a part of War Games, and Seth Rollins declined the offer. Friday comes, and we get the Rogue Bloodline's 5th member, which is none other than Big Bronson Reed. Now, similar to the women's War Games that was announced apparently during the pre-taped of Raw, the 5th member was revealed on this Monday's Raw. When I seen Big Bronson Reed show up on SmackDown, I immediately got upset. Not because Bronson Reed is in the Bloodline, because trust me, when the Bloodline was first established, before he got released, Bronson Reed, on the bump, I believe, stated he wanted to be a part of the Bloodline. He wanted to be a part of this. So it does fit Bronson Reed being with Solo, Tama Tonga, Tungaloa, and Jacob Fatu. That Bloodline is a heavyweight, super heavyweight, just monsters. And we know how Bronson Reed gets down. But you know that with Bronson Reed being in this War Games, Seth freaking Rollins will be in this War Games. And I don't like it. At first thought, don't like it. Then you start to think about it. What would piss off the final boss more than anything else than to see your family for the second time aligning themselves with the opposition that actually took what was bestowed upon you, your bloodline. What I would love to see, at the end, the conclusion of Survivor Series War Games 2024. Would love to see Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Sami Zayn, aka Sammy Uso, and Seth Rollins in the ring. And let's just say for a split second, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins acknowledge each other, give each other that head nod that, all right, we can get past this. And just like at Bloodline, Bad Blood, you hear the final boss's music, and The Rock appears once again, does not say a word, but this time, the Rogue Bloodline is kind of at the entrance, and he comes out, stands there, looks at them, and just stares a barrel down at Roman and that bloodline, and just gives them this look in disgust. How dare you? Now, that is what I want to see. That's what I'm hoping we see this in 2 weeks or a week from Saturday. A week from Saturday. That's what I want to see. It was also very interesting, and a lot of people started to point this out because it started to hit the internet. It started to hit Wrestle Talk. It started to hit Twitter. Everybody started talking about when Sammy, Jimmy, Jay, and Roman was in Roman's locker or in his office or his wherever it was in his room. And he was sitting there, and when Solo's music hit, Sammy took a phone and threw it on the couch. It's very interesting. Because we all know at the end, or we all know after Big Bronson Reed hit the Tsunami on Roman Reigns, Jey Uso said, similar to when Jimmy said to Roman, you got to make that call. Got to make that call, Us. And we seen at the conclusion of SmackDown. This is why I know we don't like the term cinema, but Roman Reigns was sitting on the couch, grabbed his phone, said, but it was interesting. I laughed because he does this. And he goes, call the wise man. But then, like, I'm looking at his hands, and he's looking though as if he's going to dial the wise man's number. Or he could have just hit the speaker button. Speaker button hits. That number that you dialed is no longer in service. It was disconnected. and it left everybody on a cliffhanger like, oh my God, Paul Heyman has disconnected from Roman Reigns. Even though storyline, if you date back to when when Solo took Paul's phone and crushed it, that probably is why the phone is not in service. Now, there's a lot to be said about what is happening here. It's a lot. Because you have, on one hand, you have, why did Sammy throw his phone on the couch? 1. 2, why is Paul Heyman's phone, like, where's Paul at? And could we possibly see Roman Reigns, wise man, come out with the final boss and he sides with the Rogue Bloodline? Could we see that? The reason I say that is because, and I've stated this before, it will be very weird to see Paul Heyman in a baby face type of approach. Now, as I've said before, the perfect person you should get to be the mouthpiece for that bloodline, it shouldn't be Paul. Get Estrada, the man who used to manage Umaga, because he signed a Legends contract with the WWE this year. He signed it. Utilize him. Let him be the mouthpiece for the bloodline. And he don't even got to do much. He could do the same thing Paul does. But do something with him. Because most people will assume Paul is going to turn on Roman. Because Paul is going to go to where the next big things are. Even though we've seen it backstage photos, we've seen it all over the place, Paul Heyman still travels with Roman Reigns. Like, people have shown video, photos, things like that of Paul Heyman with Roman Reigns. But then Paul Heyman likes to do certain things. Like, Paul Heyman will take a picture, take a video, post it on his Twitter of a plane or something like this. That's why you could possibly think it could possibly be that Paul Heyman is aligning himself with the final boss. He's traveling. We know The Rock travels all the time. Could it be that Paul Heyman is inserting himself to be closer to the final boss? Because he knows that is the high chief of this bloodline. Remember what Solo said, this is all going according to plan. So, this part of the chapter in the Bloodline story, the Bloodline saga, I don't really like it. But if you flip it at the end, I think of Marvel. This part of the Bloodline saga, this is like Age of Ultron. And we all know Age of Ultron out of the Avengers movies was the worst one. We all know that. But the end, it left us with a cliffhanger. It left us like at that post credit. had us like, oh man, we can get over this. Because if we could get to the end game, we can just, all right, second one, whatever. There is some things in the second one that does placate to the rest of the story, but we really don't like the second one. We really don't like Age of Ultron. That's what this is. This year's War Games is like Age of Ultron. It's not the best. But we gotta get past this chapter to get to Infinity War, to get to the end game. And we know what the end game is. The end game is the final boss versus the head of the table, the OTC. That's what it is. The OTC versus the final boss for the true calling of the head of the table, the tribal chief, the high chief. That's what this is all about. Like I said, I still feel in my heart and soul that this War Games is going, like, I don't think it's going to disappoint. I just think it gives me the vibe of last year's War Games with the women, when you had Charlotte and you had Becky on the same team. Now, are we going to get a moment where Roman and Seth hug each other and they start doing the Shield shit? No, probably not. But you're going to have that built up tension. You're going to have, I don't trust you. You're going to have all this stuff leading up to that moment. And there's going to be a moment where Seth and Roman someone's going to save one of them. One of them is going to save the other. And that's when you're going to see that quick moment. But this is not what ideally we wanted to see. And that's the problem. That's the problem that I have. Ideally, this ain't the War Games that I wanted to see. I didn't want to see Big Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins being inserted into this. Hell, just kept it 4-on-4. Lance Adewale just signed to NXT. The other Zilla Fatu, apparently is heading there. But like I said last week, I feel like Zilla and Lance are more leaning towards NXT. They need to get acclimated to this system. The Werewolf is a whole different ball game. That man has it. This is a tricky time. This is a trying time right now in Triple H's universe, in the WWE. You have two War Games. You had one War Games that was set 4-on-4. Let's stick it to 4-on-4 if you're not going to have Rock and Cody be inserted in here. But with bringing Seth Rollins in, you have more of a reason why The Rock will get pissed off. You have more of a reason why The Rock is now going to turn around and raise hell all over this bloodline. Because you are aligning yourself with people that had took and destroyed our bloodline as we know it. And then you have the Women's War Games that I'm going to talk about next week. So let me know what you guys thought of this episode right here. Leave it in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this whole new bloodline Bloodline 2.0 with Bronson Reed in there now. What do you guys think about that? Are you guys content with Big Bronson Reed and potentially Seth Rollins being, well, we know Seth Rollins is going to be in this story, in this Bloodline Civil War, in War Games? How do you guys feel about the women's War Games? Once it is announced, come back, let me know. We'll go from there. Who do you guys have winning the Women's United States Championship? Yeah, that's it. I had a very, it's been a very challenging few months for me. I did not have no time to put any notes down, so this was kind of just me just going off a cusp. There was some things that I had written down, but not my normal traditional bullet points that I do. But I did not want to not put something out, because originally I wasn't. I'm just going to keep it a stack with y'all. I was not going to do it. But then I watched SmackDown. I seen Bronson Reed. I started to go in this rant. I was like, what the fuck? Then I sat down and I thought about it, and I said, it makes sense. And I think and it's in Vancouver, and Rock is, I believe he was in London, but I think he's cleared, and I won't be surprised if he is in Vancouver for Survivor Series War Games, just to show up at the end. I'll be back next week with a new episode. I will be talking about the women's War Games, the men's War Games once it's been officially said. Hopefully we get something about the women's Intercontinental title, or the Raw has a mid-card title for the women's division. AEW, as you know, I didn't talk about AEW this week. Full Gear is next weekend, so I believe it's on Sunday. So I will just probably go over the quick card with you guys. If it is on Sunday, if it's Saturday, then I will try to do somewhat of a review of it. But I'm going till next week. I'm out. Make sure that you follow RCW_podcast. Also the Ace as well, RCW_Ace. I am starting to wrap up or build. I'm starting to create my end of year segment. So last year I did just a post on our page. This year I kind of want to do episode again. Fingers crossed. The Ace will be here. And probably some other people as well. I want to try to get a few other people on to talk about some stuff about wrestling. But that is it. I am out for now. Like I said, I will be back next week. Take care. Enjoy this week of wrestling. I'm out. Later.